looks like the old Milfuckee kind of gave up the ghost. It doesn't sound too good on the inside, so let's take her apart and see what happened. Okay, so I'm no expert, but I'd say the first thing to do when you're doing a little autopsy on something like this, pull out the pokey bit there. Now, I don't know how it spins because I can't get this to spin with a pair of pliers. Something is pretty good and fucked on the inside there. So let's see. We got some screws on the end side over here. I'm going to strip those out real well. Let's get a set of Torx. These are those combination Torx and flatheads, so, you know, try the flathead. That didn't work out too well. Okay, these screws are the most obvious things that I saw, so I decided to take those apart first. Let's see, what do we have here? I'm no expert, but it doesn't seem, I wouldn't think that's supposed to spin, but I'm not sure, or wobble like that, but I'm not sure. Now this rotates freely. That's actually pretty well packed with grease in there. It's still red. Now this ring here kind of looks like what used to be a bearing but is not a bearing any longer. So we'll investigate that a little more. So I'll pop this off. Now what? Now my grandpa had this Milwaukee for a while. Then I inherited it, and I've used it for maybe a year or two, occasional typical home shop use. My first angle grinder was a Ryobi, and that worked for me quite well. Until, oh, here we go. I think it just started spitting out plastic chunks. Oh, I broke something there. So here's a shot of the inside. I don't entirely know what I'm looking at, but nothing looks fried. Oh, there we go. Here's the armature. You can see there's some grind marks there for balancing. I believe that's for balancing. And nothing looks too cooked on the windings. It is pretty warm though, even from that little bit that I ran it. The commutator looks, it's not really beaten up or anything. It's darkened, but that's it. Little bearing. Don't feel any play in that. It was just this mystery thing that I don't know what that is. That's about all for the electrical side, the body of it. I don't really know much about it. There's some magnets in there and some windings and some electrical stuff. Yeah. Alright. Let's take a look at the gearbox, see if something was binding up in there. The important thing to remember is that it's already fucked, so you're really not going to do anything by attempting to fix it. I'm almost doing more of just an autopsy than anything else because How does this stupid thing come off? There we go. It's strange because it felt like something was physically locking up in there, but it also was really down on power. You know, I dogged the grinding wheel in a little bit and it stalls it right out. So who knows? Take that off. Hidden in the grime here, we've got 4 more screws. Okay, so all the screws are out. Here's the gear. That looks to be good shape. That spins nicely. There's the button. There's a little bearing in there, that little needle bearing that this runs in. I don't see any bits and pieces in there. I was expecting to see some bearing balls or a needle bearing needles or something like that, but there's really nothing in there. But this sets a little dark. That goes right into that counter bore there. A little stiff, but there's nothing to keep it oriented in there. So I really wonder what happened. I think, oh, it came out. All right. So that what I think is a bearing race is stuck in this gear housing now. Oh yeah, indeed, look at that. And on the shaft, right there, that is definitely a ball bearing race. And now that I'm looking, I can look at the inside of this race. You can see that's got a groove for a ball bearing, or a set of ball bearings to run in there. So this definitely used to be a ball bearing, and there are no ball bearings left in there. So that's definitely the culprit. Now, as to why it didn't have any power is, I don't know, beyond me. Maybe because this was wobbling around like that, maybe it was doing something with the magnetics or something, or it was, who the hell knows. I really don't know too much about that, but maybe it's one of those problems that happen at the same time. But dogged right down, and there's not a single ball bearing to be found. I did notice there were some things, some chunks of something flying out of the oh, when you're holding the tool, there's the cooling vents there, and there were some things of something flying out, and that must have been the last couple ball bearings. So that's disappointing. One ball bearing destroyed this entire tool, and there's definitely no fixing it. As far as the electrical end was probably fine. I don't really know what I'm looking at, but it, you know, I don't know. I would imagine the fact that there wasn't a bearing on either end supporting this, that probably messed with the motor end somehow. And yeah, that's that. I gotta buy a new angle grinder now. Like I said, my first angle grinder was a Ryobi. That worked out pretty well, but I think when I was using that, just eventually some chunks of black plastic looking stuff just started flying out of the air vents, and it worked okay, but then it started losing power and getting hot. It just didn't work really well, so I replaced it with a DeWalt, similar in size to this one, standard small 4.5-inch angle grinder. The DeWalt worked really well. It was about $60, I think, I used that until it got overheated once, and let's see, I don't think anything started coming out of it, but it was just never quite right. It made a weird noise when I was using it. It got really hot while I was using it, and then eventually I was grinding something with it, and then I heard an electric, you know, electric arcing sort of buzz, and all the lights in my shop dimmed. And then I turned the grinder off and everything went back to normal. I said, oh, that's weird. Go back to grinding, and I hear that electrical buzzing again, and the lights dim in my shop, and I smell the electrical smoke, the factory installed electrical smoke that you're not supposed to let out. And I said, well, I'm just gonna stop right while I'm ahead. So I put that aside. I took the handle off it and the nut and everything just to rob some parts off it, and got rid of that one. And I had this grinder on the shelf because I didn't need to use two grinders at once. I said, well, time to put this grinder into full service. I wasn't too happy about it because personally I don't really like this style of handle, because you're forced to hold your hand back here to hold it on. I like the other kind where you can just toggle it on and it stays on, and you can hold it whichever way you want, and you don't have to have your hand back here to hold the trigger down. But anyway, started using this one, like I said, maybe a year or two ago. Occasional home shop use, and just gave up the ghost. So that's too bad. But what I plan to do, gonna go to Harbor Freight and gonna buy one of their top of the line angle grinders. I think they're selling for $11.99 with a coupon. So I'm gonna give one of those a shot. And hey, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work very long. You know, this grinder is like $100, and my DeWalt was $60. The DeWalt only lasted me about 2 years. This one lasted much longer because my grandpa had it, but he didn't use it very often. So for $11 or $12, not much to lose. So this is all going to get thrown into the scrap pile, and I'm going to welcome a new Harbor Freight grinder into the shop and see how it does. So thanks for watching, everybody. Let me know what you think of this, if you've had similar luck with Milwaukees. I thought Milwaukees were pretty good. I've always liked them. They're always pretty rough and tough, but it's too bad just one bearing decides to go and you're done. I don't know, that's it. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment, hit the subscribe button, and stay tuned for more.